Hey Dane, this is Dayne Garrettt with ABC. Going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about your mechanics, your motion, and just get you to a point where you're staying close a little bit longer, using a little bit more legs, and we'll just kind of go through and look at each sort of, point in the mechanics. There's about 3 or 4 sort of places we look at to make sure everything's working right. And we'll kind of go from there and just talk about how we need to maximize our lower half, stay closed a little bit longer, all right? So we'll go back here and look at your setup first off, all right? So basically what we want to make sure that we're doing is once we start our wind-up, we got to make sure that we're trying to limit side-to-side movement, front-to-back movement. All right, so if we're looking at you from the front, from the batter's box, we're going to see your head, almost get maybe a foot or so off from its initial point. You can see how you really lean back over here, and now you have this head over here, so there's just a lot of movement. We want to try to get as efficient as we can, just get our head on line on target, and not have our eyes shift off to the side or shift back. So just making sure that we're not moving as much. This huge step back doesn't benefit us, doesn't give us more power. Just try to stay over the rubber a little bit more. Just sort of try to, there'll be a little bit of movement sideways, but just try to make sure that head's not moving as much through that initial windup. All right, that'll just kind of help you stay on line a little bit better. So once we get there, all right, now what we want to look for is we want to look for that initial weight. Where's our body, where's our spine? So you can see right here, you're starting to get a little bit of slant through your leg lift, all right? So you're doing a really good job of getting your hips closed. Everything's good here lower half-wise, but what we got going on is we got you can see our hands are outside of our left leg. We got our body already leaning forward, so your head's out over this front hip. All right, so then as you're going forward, you're just losing a lot of that power that you're going to be able to get through your hips, because now everything's just kind of straight, and we're just using a lot of upper body, and we're out front. All right, so what we want to try to see you get is at the height of your leg kick. This is what we look at. All right, so it's right here. What we want to try to see you get is better posture over your back foot. All right, so we're seeing more straight over that back foot here with your head. All right, so we want to see that a little bit more. All right, so just think staying over that back hip, back leg. Then what we want to see too is getting your hands and keeping it, either on top of that leg or behind it. We just don't want to get in front of it. All right, so if that means you not bringing your knee back as far, we just got to make sure that our hands are just sitting right around your belt, right around your belly button, and not in front on your left hip. That just kind of gets the focus out over your front half. All right. So now what we want to see, so now the timing. All right. We got to make sure we're timing this right, or it's going to lead to some more problems down the mound. So the timing here is hips start to go at the same time your heel and foot start to go, staying behind your hips, and then that ball pops out. All right. So we got all 3 things to happen all at the same time. All right, we got to make sure hips go first, hands break, leg starts going down. So as we go forward, all right, you can see how that your ball has actually popped out a frame before, so that ball's coming out right here. All right, so you're just a touch early with breaking your hands. All right, but the biggest thing for you is watching what this leg does. All right, watch what this does in relation to this line here. All right, you can see how your hips really don't go forward a whole lot, and then this leg just swings around sort of like a door hinge. It just kind of goes here and then comes around. You can see that foot just starts to pop open here, the toes. All right, what we want to try to see you get is more movement forward with your hips. So we want to see more movement this way. All right, so then at this position, we're down the hill a little bit more. We're out here, somewhere out here, and now our foot hasn't come past our hips. So that's what I mean by leading with the hips is, at this position, we still want to see, you know, a little bit more here, but, you know, your foot still hasn't popped out yet. All right, the hips are closed, they're driving down the mound, all right, and we're just leading with the hips. Then at that last kind of second, then that leg starts to swing open, you know, and then we're landing, all right. So what that's going to do is that's going to get you to a point where at foot strike, so once this front foot first hits the ground, which is right here, all right, if we're to draw a line from that back foot to the catcher, it's kind of hard to tell the exact distance, but it looks like you're popping open quite a bit. We want to try to land somewhere in that line to a little bit closed off, all right? And that, not only does that generate more power, getting us closer to the hitter, but what it does is that keeps your weight back, all right? So you can see right here your knees over your ankle, all right? And at this point, your weight's right here, all right? We want it to be still back here, all right? We want to still be in all these points back here, because the more we can get back here, the more energy we're going to be able to transfer forward in those hips. All right, because we basically the where we get our velocity is the ability to rotate that hip forward as that right shoulder comes through. So you can see that your shoulder and hip rotate at the same time. All right, we want hip to go first and then that shoulder to come through. All right, and you can't do that because you're out over this front foot. All right, so at foot strike, we're going to want to try to see you get, obviously, close a little bit more, but a little bit farther out so that now your knee is not over your ankle. There's a little bit of angle right here, so you're able to stay back and then transfer that load forward, all right? And then front side-wise, once we get this glove out there, all right, all that happens now is that elbow rotates down, that glove stays out there. All right, you can see you kind of tuck it in there a little bit. Not too bad, but that's just, again, something that we want to try to match that glove up with our foot. So just get that glove out there a little bit, or that foot out there a little bit farther like we talked about, and then that'll help you drive through this back leg a lot longer. And then through release, you know, we're going to want to see you know, your release point is probably somewhere between these two frames. You're doing pretty good at straightening out your leg and getting out front. You know, you're pretty close to getting out over your front foot, but we just can get a little bit more. So if that foot's a little bit farther down there, you know, now we're looking, you know, out at this point. Now we're able to drive a little bit farther out over our front foot and generate a little bit more power. So that's just the biggest thing for you is just getting yourself to a point where you're using more legs, but basically you're just staying closed longer, driving your hip farther down the mound, and just getting your body going to generate more of that power. But, you know, overall, fundamentally, it's all pretty good for you. So now it's just a matter of just staying closed longer, using more legs to really get yourself going. So hopefully you had a good time at camp. Thanks for making it out. We look forward to seeing you again with ABC.